What if true freedom wasn't about acquiring more, but about thoughtfully shedding what no longer serves you? We often chase external validation only to find ourselves more tethered and less content. Discover how to meticulously curate your existence, aligning your actions with your deepest values and living a life rich in purpose, not possessions. But this journey goes deeper than just decluttering. We will unlock the ancient secrets of the Stoics, forging an unshakable inner citadel against the chaos and noise of the modern world. Your blueprint for a purposefully designed life, free from the weight of the unnecessary, awaits. The transformation begins now. Chapter 1. The Call to Intentional Living. Take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale. When was the last time you truly felt in control of your day? Not just managing tasks and putting out fires, but moving with a sense of purpose, feeling that your actions are aligned with a deeper sense of who you are and where you want to go. For many of us, that feeling is fleeting, a rare moment of clarity in a sea of constant motion. We wake up to the chime of an alarm, our minds immediately snagged by a stream of notifications, emails, and the day's looming to-do list. We are carried away by the waves of emotions, distractions, and worldly desires, living life on autopilot. We are busy, yes, but are we productive? We are moving, but are we moving forward? This is the silent hum of an unintentional life. It's a life lived by default, not by design. It's a state of reacting rather than acting, of being a passenger in a vehicle that is barreling down a road you don't remember choosing. The world is loud, filled with chaotic noise and hurry, constantly telling us what we should want, who we should be, and how we should spend our precious time. We absorb these messages unconsciously, adopting goals that aren't our own and chasing a version of success that leaves us feeling empty. We accumulate possessions that clutter our homes and commitments that clutter our calendars, all in the search for a happiness that remains just out of reach. We find ourselves overwhelmed, stretched thin, and wondering, is this all there is? This book is the answer to that question. The answer is a resounding no. There is another way. This is the call to intentional living. It's not a new trend or a complex system. It is an ancient art, a return to a more conscious and deliberate way of being. Intentional living is the practice of making choices and taking actions that are in alignment with your most important values and goals. It is the art of designing a life that you not only live, but also love. It's about trading a life of hurried reaction for one of thoughtful response. It's about shifting from autopilot to pilot. The foundation of this art rests on a simple but profound principle that has echoed through the ages, from the minimalist movements of today to the Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome: the mastery of letting go. Minimalism teaches us to let go of the physical junk that makes our thoughts and spaces heavy, to clear out the unnecessary things so we can make room for what really counts. Stoicism teaches us to let go of the mental loads and emotional ties that hold us captive, our anxieties about things we can't change, our anger over past slights, our obsession with the opinions of others. Both paths lead to the same truth. There is freedom in simplicity. There is power in subtraction. At the heart of this philosophy lies a tool of immense power, understanding the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. The ancient Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. You cannot control the traffic, the weather, the economy, or what other people think of you. You can, however, control your perceptions, your judgments, your responses, and your actions. An unintentional life is spent wasting enormous amounts of energy trying to influence the uncontrollable. An intentional life channels that same energy inward, focusing it where it can create real and lasting change. It's about accepting the world as it is, while taking full responsibility for your own inner world. Imagine the mental toughness of a person who is not disturbed by external chaos because their inner peace is self-generated. This isn't a superpower reserved for monks or sages. It is a skill that can be cultivated. Consider the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Here was a man who ruled a vast empire, constantly dealing with war, plague, political intrigue, and personal tragedy. By all accounts, his life was a storm of uncontrollable events. Yet, in the quiet moments on the battlefield or in his palace, he would write to himself in a private journal we now know as meditations. He wasn't writing for fame or for an audience. He was practicing the art of intentional living. He was reminding himself of his principles, using reason to navigate his challenges, and focusing his mind on virtue and self-control. He understood that while he couldn't control the empire's fate, he could control his own character. That is the essence of living with intention. This journey is not about becoming perfect or living a life devoid of possessions and emotion. It's not a rigid set of rules. It is a process of self-discovery and purpose. It's about asking the big questions. What truly matters to me? What are my core values? How do I want to spend my finite time and energy? It's about having the courage to let go of what isn't important to make space for what is. So, this is the call. An invitation to stop drifting and start staring. An invitation to declutter not just your home, but your mind and your calendar. An invitation to live a life that reflects your deepest values, a life of purpose and unbreakable strength. It begins with the simple act of paying attention, noticing where your thoughts go, how you spend your time, and asking yourself, is this intentional? As we move forward together in this book, we will explore the practical tools and timeless wisdom needed to build this life. We will break free from the limits you put on yourself and learn to pull the right mental buttons to take control of your emotions and actions. But it all starts here, with this first breath of awareness. In our next chapter, we will take the first and most crucial step on this path, discovering the compass that will guide us. We will learn how to define our core values, the very foundation upon which an intentional life is built. Chapter 2: Unveiling Minimalism, Beyond the Clutter. In our last chapter, we laid the groundwork for our journey, defining what it truly means to live with intention. We explored the power of asking why before we ask how or what. But intention without action is merely a dream. To build a life of purpose, we must first clear the space for it, not just in our schedules, but in our very homes and in our minds. This brings us to a powerful and often misunderstood tool for intentional living. When you hear the word minimalism, what comes to mind? For many, it conjures images of stark white rooms, a single chair, and a life devoid of comfort or personality. It's often perceived as a practice of extreme deprivation, a contest to see who can own the fewest things. But this is a caricature, a misunderstanding of a deep and liberating philosophy. Minimalism isn't about having less for the sake of less. It's about making room for more. More time, more energy, more financial freedom, and more mental space for the things that truly matter. At its core, minimalism is simply the intentional promotion of the things we most value and the removal of everything that distracts us from them. It is a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in favor of focusing on what's important, so you can find happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. It's about moving from a life of passive consumption to one of active and conscious curation. You become the gatekeeper of your own life, carefully deciding what earns a place in your home, your calendar, and your head. Think about the typical modern life. We are drowning in possessions. Our closets are overflowing with clothes we never wear. Our garages are packed with things we've forgotten we own, and our digital lives are cluttered with notifications, emails, and an endless stream of content. Each of these items, physical or digital, carries a weight. It occupies physical space, but it also occupies mental space. It's another thing to clean, to manage, to maintain, to worry about, and to replace. This constant low-level hum of stuff management drains our most precious resources, our time and our attention. This is where minimalism offers a profound sense of relief. By consciously letting go of the non-essential, we reclaim those resources. Imagine waking up in a home where every object has a purpose or brings you genuine joy. The feeling isn't one of emptiness, but of lightness and clarity. Your mind, no longer bogged down by the chaos of clutter, is free to focus on creative pursuits, on being present with your loved ones, or on solving meaningful problems. The financial benefits are just as significant. When you stop buying things you don't need, you free up capital to pay down debt, save for the future, or invest in experiences that enrich your life: travel, education, or time with family. This idea of focusing only on the essential is not a new trend. It is an ancient wisdom, echoed in philosophies across centuries. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively in his private journals, not about conquering nations, but about conquering the self. In his meditations, he constantly reminded himself to strip away the non-essential, to focus on the nature of a thing and his own response to it. He understood that our happiness is not determined by our possessions or our status, but by the quality of our thoughts. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Minimalism is the physical manifestation of this Stoic principle. It is the practice of shaping our external world to reflect and support a tranquil and focused inner world. So, where do you begin? The idea of decluttering an entire life can be paralyzing. The secret is to not try. Don't set out to become a minimalist overnight. Instead, start with a single manageable space: a junk drawer, the trunk of your car, one shelf of your bookcase. Take everything out of that small space and hold each item in your hand. Then ask yourself a few simple, honest questions. Does this item serve a practical purpose in my life right now? Does this item bring me genuine joy? Am I keeping this out of obligation or guilt? Be honest with your answers. You will likely find that a significant portion of what you own falls into a category of just-in-case items or things tied to a past version of yourself that no longer exists. Letting go can be difficult. We attach memories and aspirations to our possessions. Give yourself grace. Thank the item for its service and then let it go. Donate it, sell it, or discard it. The goal isn't to purge relentlessly, but to curate intentionally. With every item you release, you are not losing something. You are gaining space, clarity, and freedom. As you practice this in small areas, you will build momentum. You'll start to see your entire home not as a storage unit, but as a sanctuary. You will also find this mindset bleeding into other areas of your life. You'll begin to question commitments that drain your energy, digital subscriptions you never use, and even relationships that are built on obligation rather than genuine connection. Minimalism is not the destination, it is a path. It is the practical, tangible first step in the art of intentional living. It's about clearing the stage so the main characters of your life, your values, your passions, and your purpose can finally take the spotlight. It's the process of removing the clutter so you can see the masterpiece that is your own life. We've now explored how to clear our physical space to make room for intention. But what about the clutter we can't see? The constant noise of worry, distraction, and self-doubt that occupies our minds. Now that we've begun to tidy our homes, we must turn our attention inward to tidy our thoughts. In our next chapter, we will delve into the practice of mental minimalism, learning how to declutter our minds for ultimate peace and focus. Chapter 3: The Art of Decluttering Your Life. In our last chapter, we laid the groundwork for intentional living by defining our core values, our personal North Star. But even with the clearest map, the journey can feel impossible if the path is overgrown and cluttered. Imagine trying to walk through a dense, tangled forest. Every step is a struggle. This is what it's like to live a life filled with clutter. And I'm not just talking about the piles of stuff in the corner of your room. Clutter is anything that obstructs your path to living in alignment with your values. It is the physical baggage we carry,
the mental noise that deafens our inner voice, and the digital deluge that drowns our focus. Decluttering, then, is not merely an act of tidying up, it is a profound act of clearing the way. It is the art of making space for peace, for purpose, and for the life you consciously choose to build. It is the essential next step in our journey, transforming abstract values into lived reality. Let's begin with the most visible form of clutter, the physical. We live in a world that screams at us to accumulate, buy more, have more, be more. We are told that happiness is just one more purchase away. Yet for many of us, the result isn't happiness, but a subtle, pervasive anxiety. Our possessions, meant to serve us, often end up owning us. They own our time through the need for cleaning and maintenance, they own our finances through debt and insurance, and most importantly, they own our mental and emotional energy. Every object in your space is a tiny anchor, holding a piece of your attention. Think about the energy it takes to manage it all. The stress of a messy closet, the frustration of not being able to find your keys, the guilt over things you bought but never used. Each item is a decision, to keep, to discard, to repair, to organize. When multiplied by hundreds or thousands of items, this creates a constant, low-level drain on our cognitive resources. This is energy that could be spent on your passions, your relationships, or your well-being. Consider the life of Warren Buffett. Despite being one of the wealthiest individuals in the world, he famously lives a life of profound simplicity. He resides in the same modest home he purchased in 1958. This isn't about being frugal for its own sake, it's about a deliberate choice. By eliminating the complexities and distractions that come with a lavish lifestyle, he preserves his most valuable asset, his mental energy, which he can then dedicate entirely to his craft of investing and learning. He understands that true wealth isn't what you own, but the freedom and focus you possess. The first step in reclaiming this freedom is to question everything you own. Look around your space and ask of each item, does this support the life I want to live? Does this align with my values? Does it bring me genuine joy or utility? Or is it just there? Be honest and be ruthless. This isn't about deprivation, it's about curation. You are the curator of your own life's museum. Choose to display only what is beautiful, meaningful, and essential. Once we begin clearing our physical environment, we often notice that a different, more stubborn kind of clutter remains. This is mental clutter. It's the endless loop of worries about the future, the heavy cloak of regrets about the past. It's the fragmented thoughts, the mental to-do list that scroll endlessly, the relentless inner critic that questions our every move. This internal noise is far more exhausting than any messy room because we can't simply walk away from it. This mental fog is the antithesis of intentional living. It pulls us out of the present moment, trapping us in hypothetical scenarios or bygone errors. It drains our capacity for deep thought, creativity, and genuine connection. Multitasking, once hailed as a superpower, is a primary culprit. When we try to do everything at once, we do nothing well. Our focus shatters into 1,000 tiny pieces, and we're left feeling busy but unproductive, stretched but unfulfilled. To declutter the mind, we must practice the art of single tasking. Choose one thing and give it your undivided attention. When you are with your family, be fully present. When you are working, work. Put your phone away. Close the unnecessary tabs. Give yourself the gift of focus. Another powerful tool is the brain dump. Keep a journal or a simple notebook. At the end of each day or whenever you feel overwhelmed, take 10 minutes to write down everything that's on your mind. Every worry, every task, every idea. The simple act of externalizing these thoughts can feel like setting down a heavy bag you didn't even realize you were carrying. It frees your mind from the job of remembering everything, allowing it to do what it does best: think, create, and be present. Finally, we must confront the newest and perhaps most insidious form of clutter: digital. Our devices, designed to connect and empower us, have become conduits for constant interruption. Notifications, emails, endless social media feeds, it's a relentless assault on our attention. Each ping and buzz is a tiny tear in the fabric of our focus, pulling us away from our intentions and into a reactive state, responding to the agendas of others rather than pursuing our own. This digital deluge creates a state of perpetual distraction. It trains our brains to crave novelty and short-term stimulation, making deep work and quiet contemplation feel difficult, even alien. It fills our lives with comparison, curated perfection, and an overwhelming amount of information that rarely translates into wisdom. To declutter your digital life is to build a fortress for your focus. Start by disabling all non-essential notifications on your phone and computer. You decide when it's time to engage, not an algorithm. Curate your digital consumption as carefully as you would your physical possessions. Unsubscribe from mailing lists that don't add value. Unfollow social media accounts that make you feel inadequate or angry. Be an intentional consumer of information, not a passive receptacle. And most importantly, schedule time to be completely unplugged. Create a digital sunset where all screens are turned off at least an hour before bed. Allow your mind the quiet space it needs to unwind, process the day, and prepare for a restful night's sleep. Decluttering your life, physically, mentally, and digitally, is not a one-time project. It is an ongoing practice of intentional elimination. It's a continuous conversation with yourself about what is truly essential. By clearing away the non-essential, you are not creating an empty life. You are creating an open one. You are making space for what truly matters: creativity, connection, growth, and peace. We've now cleared the space, removing the obstacles that block our path. But an empty space, however peaceful, is not the final goal. The question that naturally follows is, how do we intentionally fill this newfound space? In our next chapter, Forging Your Focus, the Architecture of Intentional Habits, we will move from clearing out to building up. We will explore how to construct the daily routines and powerful habits that transform our values from mere ideas into the very architecture of our lives.
Chapter 4: The Mindful Minimalist: Choosing Quality over Quantity. In our last chapter, we laid the foundation. We looked inward, identifying the core values that serve as the compass for our intentional life. But a compass is only useful if you can move in the direction it points. Often, we find our path cluttered, our progress slowed, not by a lack of direction, but by the sheer weight of everything we carry. This chapter is about lightening that load. It's about embracing the role of a mindful minimalist, not as an exercise in deprivation, but as a profound act of curation and liberation. We live in a world that worships at the altar of more. More success, more followers, more channels to watch, more items in our shopping cart, more tasks on our to-do list. This constant, frantic pursuit of accumulation creates a deafening noise in our lives. It's the hum of notifications from a phone that never sleeps. It's the visual static of a cluttered home where nothing has a place. It's the mental exhaustion of a schedule packed with commitments that drain our energy but don't fill our soul. We're told that quantity is the metric of a life well lived, but we end up with a life that is wide in its scope but shallow in its depth. We become collectors of things, acquaintances, and obligations rather than cultivators of joy, connection, and purpose. This isn't living, it's hoarding experiences and possessions out of a fear of missing out, and in the process, we miss out on what is truly essential. The antidote to this overwhelming noise is a simple yet radical philosophy: choosing quality over quantity. This is the heart of mindful minimalism. It's not about owning fewer than 100 things or living in a stark white room. It is the intentional promotion of the things we most value and the removal of everything that distracts from them. It is a conscious decision to trade the superficial for the substantive. It's about understanding that having a single, well-made tool that you use and love is better than a drawer full of cheap gadgets that break. It's knowing that one deep, honest conversation with a friend is more nourishing than 100 superficial interactions at a party. It's recognizing that an hour of focused, deep work on a meaningful project is more productive than 8 hours of distracted multitasking.
This philosophy redefines wealth not as what you have, but as what you don't need. Let's explore how to apply this principle. Start with your physical environment. Look around you. Does your space serve your life, or are you a servant to your stuff? The process of decluttering is not a chore, it is an excavation. With every item you let go of, you are not losing something. You are gaining space, clarity, and freedom. The question to ask of every object is not, could I use this someday? But rather, does this support the life I am trying to create right now? By curating your surroundings to include only things that are useful or beautiful to you, you transform your home from a storage unit into a sanctuary, a physical reflection of your internal priorities. This principle extends powerfully to how we manage our most finite resource, time. A cluttered calendar is just as suffocating as a cluttered room. We say yes out of obligation, guilt, or the fear of being left out, filling our days with activities that don't align with our core values. Mindful minimalism asks us to guard our time as fiercely as we guard our health. This is where the wisdom of an investor like Warren Buffett offers a surprisingly relevant lesson. He famously advised his pilot to list his top 25 goals, circle the most important 5, and then actively avoid the other 20. Those 20 goals were not bad ideas, they were dangerous distractions. They were tempting enough to pull focus away from what was truly essential. Your no to the non-essential is what makes your yes to the essential possible. It creates the space for quality time with loved ones, for passion projects, for rest, and for spontaneity. Our digital lives are perhaps the final frontier for this minimalist approach. We are drowning in a sea of information. The endless scroll, the constant barrage of news, the pressure to maintain a digital persona. It all fragments our attention and depletes our mental energy. A mindful minimalist curates their information diet with the same intention as their physical one. Unsubscribe from emails that don't add value. Unfollow accounts that make you feel inadequate. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Replace mindless scrolling with mindful reading. Choose a few high-quality sources of information and tune out the rest. By doing so, you reclaim your focus and protect your inner peace from the chaos of the digital crowd. Ultimately, choosing quality over quantity is about creating a life that feels as good on the inside as it may look on the outside. It's the convergence of the ancient Stoic wisdom of focusing only on what is within our control and the modern practice of minimalism. When we clear our physical spaces, we create mental space. When we simplify our schedules, we gain clarity of thought. We learn to let go of the external things we can't control, the societal pressure to have more, the endless stream of new products, and focus on the internal things we can, our choices, our attention, our definition of a successful life. This synergy between our inner and outer worlds is where intentional living truly thrives. By embracing the role of the mindful minimalist, we are not shrinking our lives, we are expanding them. We are making room for more joy, more meaning, and more peace. We are trading a life of frantic accumulation for one of deliberate cultivation. We have cleared the clutter, both physical and mental, creating a pristine environment for our purpose to flourish. But a clear path doesn't mean a storm won't come. Life will inevitably present challenges and obstacles. Now that we've created the space to face them, how do we build the inner strength to withstand them? In our next chapter, we will turn our attention inward to forge an unbreakable resilience, learning to transform life's greatest adversities into our greatest sources of strength.
Chapter 5: Echoes of Ancient Wisdom. Introduction to Stoicism. In our journey so far, we have explored the architecture of an intentional life, clearing space, defining our purpose, and focusing our energy. We've worked on designing our external world to reflect our inner values. But what happens when the unexpected storms of life begin to rage? What happens when chaos, uncertainty, and adversity knock at our door? An intentional life is not just about curating a peaceful environment. It's about cultivating a peaceful mind that can endure any environment. Imagine a great ancient lighthouse standing on a rocky shore. For centuries, it has been battered by wind, rain, and colossal waves. Yet it remains unshaken. Its foundation is deep, its structure is sound, and its light never wavers. This is the quality of mind we now seek to build, an inner citadel, a fortress of tranquility that remains secure no matter the turmoil outside. The blueprints for such a structure have existed for over 2,000 years, an echo of ancient wisdom perfectly suited for our modern challenges. This school of thought began not in a gilded lecture hall, but on a public painted porch in the heart of ancient Athens. Its wisdom was later refined and practiced by some of the most remarkable figures in history: a powerful statesman advising an emperor, a former slave who became one of antiquity's most revered teachers, and even a Roman emperor himself, who would write his private reflections on virtue and duty by candlelight in his tent during military campaigns. Though their stations in life were vastly different, they all sought the same thing: a rational, resilient, and virtuous way to live. This is the philosophy of Stoicism. At the very core of this practical philosophy lies a single, powerful idea that can revolutionize your life the moment you grasp it. It is often called the dichotomy of control. It states that in life, there are things we can control and things we cannot. That's it. The list of things we can control is surprisingly short: our thoughts, our judgments, our choices, our actions. The list of things we cannot control is, well, everything else: the weather, the economy, what other people think of us, traffic, illness, and ultimately our own mortality. The Stoic insight is that the vast majority of human anxiety, frustration, and suffering comes from a simple miscalculation: trying to control what we cannot while neglecting what we can. Think of yourself as the captain of a ship. You cannot control the sea. You cannot command the winds to stop or the waves to calm. To try would be madness and lead only to despair. What you can control is how you adjust the sails, how you hold the rudder, and how you command your crew. A wise captain focuses all their energy on their own actions and responses, navigating the storm with skill and calm. An unwise captain screams at the sky, cursing the storm, while the ship is dashed against the rocks. We are all captains on the sea of life. Where is your focus? On the storm or on the rudder? This leads to the second great pillar of Stoic thought: virtue is the highest good. In a world obsessed with external validation, wealth, status, followers, possessions, this is a radical idea. The Stoics argued that the only true measure of a good life is the quality of our character. They identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, the ability to see the world clearly and navigate life's complexities; justice, the commitment to treating others with fairness and kindness; courage, the strength to face challenges and do what is right, even when it's difficult; and temperance, the practice of moderation and self-control in all things. For the Stoic, success is not something you acquire, it is something you become. An intentional life, then, is a life lived in the pursuit of virtue. Finally, this ancient philosophy teaches us that it is not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of those events. An unexpected bill isn't inherently bad. It's our judgment, "This is a catastrophe," that creates panic. A critical comment from a colleague isn't inherently painful. It's our interpretation, "They think I'm a failure," that causes the sting. The event is neutral. The story we tell ourselves about the event is what gives it power. Stoicism hands us back the pen. It empowers us to become the authors of our own experience by consciously choosing our responses. We can learn to see obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities. Opportunities to practice patience, to develop creative solutions, to demonstrate courage, to be a good captain in a storm. This isn't a call to be emotionless or passive. It is the very opposite. It is a call to be profoundly engaged with the only thing that is truly ours, our own mind. It is a training regimen for the soul, designed to forge unshakable tranquility and moral clarity. We have now uncovered the philosophical blueprint for our inner citadel. We understand its foundation, the dichotomy of control, and its pillars of virtue and perception. But a blueprint is not a building. Now we must learn how to lay the stones.
In the chapter to come, we will move from theory to application, exploring the daily practices and mental exercises that transform these ancient ideas into a living, breathing source of unbreakable inner strength.
Chapter 6. Mastering Your Inner World. The Dichotomy of Control. In our last chapter, we journeyed through the physical and digital spaces of our lives, learning to declutter and simplify, creating an environment that supports our intentions. But what happens when the clutter isn't in our homes or on our screens, but in our minds? What do we do when the chaos we feel isn't from the world around us, but the world within us? This is often the greater challenge, and it is the key to unlocking a truly unshakable sense of peace and purpose. Welcome to the art of mastering your inner world. Imagine a ship's captain navigating a vast, unpredictable ocean. The captain cannot command the winds to cease, nor can she calm the raging waves. She cannot control the storm. To try would be an act of pure futility, a recipe for frustration and despair. What can she control? She can control the rudder. She can adjust the sails. She can manage her crew, maintain the integrity of her ship, and steer a steady course through the heart of the storm. Her focus is not on the uncontrollable sea, but on her masterful response to it. This is the essence of what ancient philosophers called the dichotomy of control, and it is the single most powerful principle for intentional living. The dichotomy of control is a simple yet profoundly transformative idea. It asks us to divide every situation, every worry, every goal into two distinct categories: that which is within our control and that which is not. The source of most of our anxiety, frustration, and suffering comes from a fundamental confusion between these two categories. We exhaust ourselves trying to command the waves while neglecting the rudder in our own hands. Let's first look at what is truly outside of our control. The list is vast. We do not control the weather, the economy, or the traffic on our morning commute. We do not control the past. It is written and cannot be revised. We do not ultimately control the future. We can only influence it. And most critically, we do not control other people. We cannot control their opinions, their actions, their feelings, or what they think of us. How much energy do we waste trying to manage the impressions we make on others? We curate our lives, choose our words, and tailor our actions, hoping to win approval. This is like entrusting your happiness to 1,000 different strangers, giving each of them a remote control to your own well-being. It is a game you can never win, because the rules are always changing and the players are unpredictable. True freedom begins the moment you reclaim that remote control. So, if we let go of all that, what is left? What is actually within our power? The answer is everything that truly matters. You have absolute control over your thoughts, your judgments, and your interpretations of events. An unexpected bill is not inherently a catastrophe. It is your judgment of it that makes it so. A critical comment from a colleague is not inherently a personal attack. It is your perception that gives it weight. You control your choices, your actions, and your responses. You cannot control the traffic jam, but you can control your response to it. Will you fill the car with rage and frustration, or will you choose to listen to a podcast, practice deep breathing, or simply accept the moment for what it is? The event is external, the experience is internal, and the internal is your domain. Consider the archer. A master archer understands this dichotomy perfectly. She controls her training, her breathing, the selection of the bow and arrow, the way she draws the string, and the precise moment of release. She pours all her intention and skill into these actions. But once the arrow leaves the bow, it is no longer in her control. A sudden gust of wind may push it off course. The target might unexpectedly move. The arrow's flight is subject to the world. The unskilled archer obsesses over the outcome, whether the arrow hits the bullseye. Her happiness rises and falls with this external result. The master archer, however, finds her satisfaction in the quality of her process. She judges herself on the perfect execution of the things she could control. If she did her part flawlessly, she is at peace, regardless of where the arrow lands.
This is how we must approach our goals. Focus on the effort, not the outcome. Invest in the process, not the prize. How do we practice this in our daily lives? It begins with a simple, conscious pause. The next time you feel a surge of anxiety, anger, or frustration, stop, take a breath, and ask yourself this question. In this situation, what is within my control and what is not? Be honest and rigorous in your assessment. Is your anger directed at the long line at the grocery store? Uncontrollable. Is it directed at your own lack of planning which made you rush? Controllable. Are you worried about an upcoming job interview? You cannot control the interviewer's mood or the other candidates. But you can control your preparation, your research, and how you present yourself. Shift your entire focus on that which you can control. Pour your energy there. You will find that the anxiety attached to the uncontrollable elements begins to dissolve, replaced by a sense of empowerment and focus. A helpful exercise is to take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. At the end of each day, think of something that worried you. On one side of the line, write down every aspect of that situation you could not control. On the other side, write down the aspects you could. This simple act trains your mind to see the distinction, to recognize where your energy is best spent and where it is being wasted. Over time, this mental sorting becomes second nature. Mastering this principle is not about becoming passive or emotionless. It is the exact opposite. It is about becoming radically effective. It's about conserving your finite time, energy, and emotional resources for the battlefield where you can actually win, the battlefield of your own mind and your own actions. By letting go of the uncontrollable, you liberate an immense amount of power to shape what you can. As we close this chapter, we stand at a pivotal point. We have cleared our outer worlds, and now we have a tool to organize our inner worlds. We've learned to separate the signal from the noise, the controllable from the uncontrollable. This creates a profound clarity. But clarity without action is merely a thought exercise. Now that we know where to focus our power, how do we build the systems to apply it consistently? How do we translate this inner clarity into the small daily actions that build an intentional life? In our next chapter, The Architecture of Habits, we will learn just that. We will move from philosophy to practice and discover how to build the powerful automatic behaviors that will become the very foundation of our transformation.
Chapter 7. Cultivating Virtue, Your Compass for a Fulfilling Life. In our journey so far, we have explored the power of our internal world. We've learned to declutter our minds, to focus our attention with intention, and to distinguish between the chaotic events we cannot control and the focused responses that are entirely our own. But this raises a fundamental question. Once we claim ownership of our reactions, our choices, and our mindset, how do we decide what to do? What guides our actions? If our life is a ship and we are the captain, what is our North Star? The answer is not found in a set of external rules, societal expectations, or the fleeting pursuit of happiness. The true compass for an intentional life is found within. It is the cultivation of virtue. Now, the word virtue might sound old-fashioned, conjuring images of stern-faced philosophers or rigid moral codes, but I want you to set those notions aside. For our purposes, think of virtue simply as excellence of character. It is the practice of becoming the best version of ourselves, not for applause or reward, but for the profound inner peace and fulfillment that comes from living in alignment with our deepest values. This internal compass has 4 primary directions, 4 cardinal virtues that have been a guide for humanity for thousands of years. They are not separate goals to be checked off a list, but interconnected aspects of a whole, well-lived life. These are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Let's begin with wisdom. This isn't about having a high IQ or memorizing facts. Practical wisdom is about seeing the world clearly as it is. It's the ability to navigate complex situations with sound judgment, to understand the consequences of our actions, and to learn from our experiences.
Wisdom is the quiet voice that encourages us to pause before reacting, to question our own assumptions, and to seek understanding before passing judgment. It's what allows you to hear criticism not as a personal attack, but as potential data for growth. It's the clarity that helps you separate a difficult circumstance from a catastrophic one. Cultivating wisdom is a commitment to lifelong learning and, most importantly, to self-awareness. Next is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. We often think of grand acts of physical bravery, but in our daily lives, moral courage is called for far more often. It is the courage to stand up for your principles, even when it's unpopular. It's the courage to have a difficult conversation with a loved one, to admit you were wrong, or to ask for help. It's the courage to be vulnerable, to try something new and risk failure, and to choose the harder path of long-term growth over the easier path of short-term comfort. Every time you face a discomfort that serves a higher purpose, you are practicing courage. Then we have justice. This virtue extends beyond courtrooms and laws. Justice, at its core, is about how we treat others. It is the practice of fairness, kindness, integrity, and compassion. It's the recognition that we are part of a larger community and that our actions have a ripple effect. Justice is in the small things, giving credit where it's due at work, listening with genuine empathy to a friend's troubles, acting honestly in our transactions, and treating everyone we meet with a baseline of respect and dignity. It is the moral obligation to do the right thing, not because someone is watching, but because it is who we are committed to being. Finally, there is temperance, or self-control. This is the virtue of balance, moderation, and discipline. In a world of endless distractions and instant gratification, temperance is perhaps more crucial than ever. It's the ability to govern our desires and appetites rather than being governed by them. This applies to everything from food and drink to social media and spending. Temperance is not about deprivation, it's about freedom. It's the freedom from the pull of addiction, the freedom from impulsive decisions that lead to regret, and the freedom to direct your energy toward what truly matters. It is the bedrock upon which the other virtues are built, as it provides the discipline needed to act wisely, courageously, and justly. These four virtues are not isolated, they flow into one another. It takes courage to act on a just cause. It takes wisdom to know when and how to be courageous. It takes temperance to maintain your commitment to all of them day in and day out. Think of them as the legs of a table. If one is weak, the entire structure becomes unstable. A life of intention requires the balanced strength of all four. Cultivating virtue is not a quest for perfection. You will have days where you act impatiently. You will have moments of fear that hold you back. You will make mistakes. That is part of being human. The art of intentional living is not about never failing. It's about continuing the practice. It's about waking up each morning and setting the intention. Today, I will try to be a little wiser, a little braver, a little more just, a little more disciplined. This is your true work. It is the ongoing, quiet, and deeply rewarding process of building your character from the inside out. With virtue as your compass, your sense of self is no longer tied to your job title, your possessions, or the opinions of others. Your fulfillment comes from the person you are becoming. This internal foundation provides a stability that no external storm can shake. It is the source of unshakable self-respect and lasting peace. As we anchor ourselves in these principles, we build a character strong enough to not only navigate our own lives, but to positively impact the lives of those around us. With our internal compass calibrated by virtue, we are now equipped to turn our focus outward. In our next chapter, we will explore how to apply this intentionality to one of the most vital areas of human existence, building deep and meaningful connections with others.
Chapter 8. Building Mental Fortitude, Resilience in a Chaotic World. In our journey so far, we have meticulously explored the architecture of an intentional life. We've learned to declutter our physical spaces, to curate our commitments, and to align our daily actions with our deepest values.
We have, in essence, designed a blueprint for a life of purpose. But a blueprint, no matter how perfect, is not the building itself. What happens when the ground shakes? What happens when the inevitable storms of life, unexpected job loss, sudden illness, personal betrayal, crash against the walls we have so carefully constructed? Without an inner foundation of strength, even the most beautiful design will crumble. This is where we must turn our attention inward. Intentional living is not just about curating our external world. It is fundamentally about cultivating our internal one. This chapter is about building that inner foundation. It's about forging mental fortitude, the kind of resilience that allows us to bend without breaking, to face chaos not with fear, but with a quiet, unshakable strength. This is not a quality you are born with. It is a skill you can build, a muscle you can train, starting today. The cornerstone of all mental fortitude is a simple yet profound understanding, the distinction between what you can control and what you cannot. Think of it as the ultimate form of decluttering, not for your home, but for your mind. So much of our anxiety, frustration, and despair comes from investing our precious mental and emotional energy into things that are, and always will be, completely outside of our influence. We worry about the economy, we rage against the traffic, we lament the decisions of others. In doing so, we give away our power. The practice of resilience begins with drawing a firm line in the sand. On one side, place everything you cannot control: the past, the weather, other people's opinions, the stock market, the simple fact that things go wrong. Now, consciously and deliberately, practice the art of letting go. This doesn't mean you become apathetic. It means you become strategic. You acknowledge these factors, you may even plan for them, but you refuse to waste your energy trying to command them. Your peace of mind is too valuable to be dependent on the uncontrollable. On the other side of that line is your domain, the kingdom where you are sovereign. This includes your thoughts, your judgments, your responses, your actions, and the effort you choose to put forth. This is where you must focus all your energy. You cannot control the storm, but you can always control how you steer your ship. You cannot control the harsh words someone else speaks, but you have absolute authority over how you interpret those words and how you choose to respond. This is the source of all your power. True strength isn't about being immune to difficulty. It's about focusing relentlessly on your own rudder in the midst of the tempest. Once we have established this anchor of control, we can move to the second pillar of resilience, mastering our perception. It is a fundamental truth that events themselves are not what harm us. Our judgment about those events is what causes our suffering. A failed project at work is not inherently a catastrophe. It is a set of facts. A deadline was missed, a goal was not achieved. The story we tell ourselves about those facts is what creates the pain. If the story is, "I'm a failure, my career is over," we create despair. But if we choose a different story, "This was a painful lesson in what doesn't work, and now I have critical information to succeed next time," we create an opportunity for growth. This act of reframing is not about naive optimism or pretending a bad situation is good. It is a disciplined search for the objective reality and the potential for action within it. When faced with a setback, the resilient mind doesn't immediately spiral into emotion. It pauses. It asks questions. What is the one thing I can learn from this? What is this situation asking of me? Where is the opportunity hidden inside this obstacle? Every challenge viewed through this lens becomes a training ground. Every difficulty is a chance to practice courage, patience, or creativity. The world is a gymnasium for your character, and adversity is the weight that builds your strength. This leads us to the third and perhaps most active pillar of mental fortitude, the practice of voluntary discomfort. We cannot expect to be strong in a crisis if we spend our entire life seeking comfort and avoiding all difficulty. A muscle that is never challenged will atrophy. The same is true for our willpower and resilience. Therefore, an intentional life includes intentionally and safely stepping outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. This doesn't need to be extreme. It can be as simple as taking a cold shower in the morning instead of a hot one. It can mean choosing to have a difficult but necessary conversation you've been avoiding. It can be fasting for a short period or choosing the stairs instead of the elevator. Each time you willingly choose a small, manageable hardship, you send a powerful message to your nervous system. I can handle discomfort. I am in control, not my fleeting urges for ease. You are, in effect, vaccinating yourself against the larger, involuntary hardships that life will inevitably send your way. When you've practiced being resilient in small things, you'll be prepared when the big things arrive. Building mental fortitude is the hidden work of living an intentional life. It is the deep, quiet practice that makes everything else possible. It is the unwavering inner strength that allows you to stick to your values when tested, to get back up after being knocked down, and to navigate the beautiful, chaotic dance of life with grace and composure. This resilience isn't a shield that makes you unfeeling. It's a flexible, living strength that allows you to feel deeply and still act wisely. Now, with this inner foundation fortified, we are prepared to turn our gaze outward once more. How does this resilience change the way we connect with others? How does a person of deep inner strength build meaningful, lasting relationships? That is the journey we will embark upon in our next chapter.
Chapter 9. The Symbiotic Path, Weaving Stoicism and Minimalism Together. In our journey together through the art of intentional living, we have explored the foundations of a purpose-driven life. We've examined how to sharpen our focus, define our values, and build resilience in a world filled with distraction. We've looked to ancient wisdom for strength and modern practices for clarity. Now, as we approach the culmination of our work, it is time to weave these threads together. It is time to explore a symbiotic path, a powerful combination where two distinct philosophies merge to create a comprehensive blueprint for living with profound intention. Imagine your life as a garden. For it to flourish, you must tend to both the soil and the seeds. One philosophy helps you clear the ground, removing the weeds, the rocks, and the debris that choke out potential growth. The other provides the highest quality seeds and teaches you how to nurture them, how to be patient through storms and droughts, and how to find joy in the process of cultivation itself. In this chapter, we will unite these two practices: Minimalism, the art of clearing the soil of your external world, and Stoicism, the art of planting and nurturing the seeds of your internal world. At first glance, they might seem like philosophies from different worlds. Minimalism is a relatively modern response to the excesses of consumer culture, often visualized as clean white walls and sparse functional furniture. Stoicism is an ancient Greco-Roman school of thought, often pictured through the stern, thoughtful faces of philosophers contemplating virtue and mortality. Yet, beneath the surface, they share a singular, powerful goal: to liberate you from the non-essential. Minimalism targets the non-essential things, commitments, and distractions in your environment. Stoicism targets the non-essential emotions, anxieties, and attachments in your mind. Together, they create a holistic system for freedom. Let's first consider how minimalism actively supports a Stoic mindset. A core tenet of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, differentiating between what you can influence and what you cannot. A cluttered, chaotic environment is a constant source of external stimuli that you cannot fully control. The overflowing closet, the endless pile of emails, the notifications buzzing on your phone. Each one is a small assault on your focus, pulling your attention toward things that are ultimately trivial. By intentionally curating your surroundings through minimalism, you drastically reduce these external intrusions. You create a calm, orderly space that makes it far easier to practice Stoic mindfulness. With fewer distractions demanding your energy, you have more capacity to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions. The minimalist home becomes a training ground for the Stoic mind. Furthermore, the very act of decluttering is a practical exercise in Stoic detachment. As you hold an object in your hand and ask, "Does this truly add value to my life?" you are practicing non-attachment to material possessions. You are viscerally learning that your peace and well-being are not dependent on things.
You realize that your happiness is not stored in a box in the attic. This physical act of letting go strengthens the mental muscle needed to let go of negative emotions, grudges, or anxieties about the future, things the Stoics would label as harmful externals. By simplifying your physical world, you make it simpler to cultivate the inner tranquility that Stoicism promises. Now, let's flip the perspective. How does Stoicism supercharge the practice of minimalism? While minimalism provides the what, to live with less, Stoicism provides the profound why. Without a strong philosophical anchor, minimalism can risk becoming just another aesthetic, or worse, another form of consumerism where you obsess over buying the perfect minimalist items. Stoicism grounds your minimalist practice in the pursuit of virtue and inner peace, or ataraxia. You aren't just tidying up your house, you are engineering a life that is less susceptible to fortune and more aligned with reason. You get rid of the excess not just to have more space, but to have more mental and spiritual freedom. The ancient philosophers were masters of desire management. They taught that our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments and our untamed desires for things outside our control. This is the ultimate weapon against the consumerist impulse that creates clutter in the first place. When you see an advertisement for the latest gadget, the Stoic within you doesn't just ask the minimalist question of, "Do I need this?" It asks a deeper question. Is this desire rational? Will it contribute to my virtue and tranquility, or will it create a fleeting pleasure followed by a new attachment and anxiety? Stoicism attacks clutter at its very root, the undisciplined mind. It helps you want less, so the process of owning less becomes effortless and natural, rather than a constant battle of willpower. This powerful synergy shines brightest when facing life's daily challenges. Imagine you receive an unexpected and expensive bill. The untrained mind might spiral into panic, fueled by attachment to its financial security. The combined Stoic minimalist mind, however, responds differently. The minimalist practice has likely already put you in a better financial position, with fewer frivolous expenses and perhaps more savings. You have less to lose, and your life isn't defined by material wealth. The Stoic practice then kicks in. You recognize the bill is an external event, outside your complete control. You can't change the amount, but you can control your response. You approach the problem with reason, not panic. You create a plan to pay it without letting it destroy your inner peace. The minimalist life created the buffer. The Stoic mind provides the resilience to navigate the situation wisely. This is the symbiotic path. Minimalism clears the stage, removing the noise, the clutter, and the distractions. Stoicism directs the play that unfolds upon it, guiding your character with wisdom, courage, and tranquility. One shapes the environment, the other shapes the soul that inhabits it. This is not a philosophy of cold deprivation or of suppressing emotion. It is a philosophy of intentional liberation. It is about actively removing every non-essential thing from your life, whether it's a dusty trinket or a festering resentment, to make room for what is truly, magnificently essential: connection, growth, peace, and purpose. We have now assembled the complete toolkit for the art of intentional living. We've explored the core principles of focus, the enduring power of ancient wisdom, and the clarifying force of modern simplicity. We have seen how to master our inner world and curate our outer world. In our final chapter, we will take this powerful combined philosophy and forge it into a daily reality. We will construct a blueprint for the intentional day, bringing this entire philosophy to life from the moment you wake and ensuring that the art you have learned becomes the life you live.
Chapter 10. Your lifelong practice, sustaining inner peace and purpose. We have arrived at our final chapter together, but this is not an ending. Think of it instead as a commencement, a beginning. Over the course of our journey, we have explored the foundations of a life lived by design, not by default. We've learned to excavate our core values from beneath layers of external expectation. We've discussed clearing the physical and mental clutter that clouds our focus, and we've practiced anchoring ourselves in the present moment, the only place where life truly unfolds.
Now we stand at the threshold, equipped with the principles and tools. The final, most important question remains: how do we sustain this? First, we must shift our perspective. Intentional living is not a project with a finish line. It is a practice, lifelong and ever-evolving. Like tending a garden, it requires consistent, patient effort. You do not plant a seed one day and expect a permanent, unchanging bloom the next. You must water it, prune it, protect it from weeds, and adapt to the changing seasons. Some seasons will bring bountiful growth. Others will demand patience and resilience. Your inner peace and purpose are this garden. Your daily attention is the water and sunlight it needs to thrive. Let's begin with sustaining inner peace. The world will never cease to be chaotic. The waves of fortune, as ancient thinkers observed, will continue to ebb and flow. The goal we have worked toward was never to command the ocean, but to become a skilled and steady captain of our own ship. Peace is not the absence of a storm, it is the calm confidence that you can navigate it. This confidence is built not in moments of grand crisis, but in the small, consistent rituals of daily life. Establish an anchor for your day. This could be 5 minutes of silent meditation when you wake up, a simple gratitude practice before you sleep, or a mindful walk during your lunch break. These are not just tasks to check off a list, they are non-negotiable appointments with yourself. These small, repeated acts of stillness and reflection build a reservoir of calm. When the inevitable disruptions of life occur, an unexpected bill, a difficult conversation, a sudden change of plans, you will have this deep well of tranquility to draw from. You will have practiced returning to your center so many times that it becomes a familiar, reliable refuge. Central to this practice is the constant, gentle letting go of what you cannot control. This is perhaps the most powerful tool for preserving your peace. You cannot control traffic, the economy, or how others choose to behave. But you have absolute dominion over your response. You can choose patience over frustration, understanding over judgment, action over anxiety. Every time you consciously release your grip on an outcome you cannot dictate, you reclaim a tremendous amount of mental and emotional energy. This is not apathy, it is the highest form of strategic wisdom, focusing your finite resources where they can make an infinite difference, on your own character and choices. Now, let us turn to sustaining purpose. A life of intention is a life guided by a compass, not a map. A map shows you a single, predetermined path. A compass, however, allows you to navigate any terrain, orienting yourself no matter where you are. Your values are this compass. Sustaining purpose, then, is the daily practice of consulting your compass and ensuring your actions align with your chosen direction. Make a habit of a weekly review. Set aside 30 minutes every Sunday to look back at the week that has passed and to look forward at the week to come. Ask yourself honest questions. Did my use of time, money, and energy reflect my deepest values? Where did I act with intention, and where did I simply react? What one adjustment can I make this coming week to align my actions more closely with my purpose? This regular check-in transforms purpose from a vague, abstract idea into a practical, actionable guide for your everyday life. It ensures that you are not just busy, but that your busyness is meaningful. Inevitably, you will face setbacks. You will have days or even weeks where you feel adrift. You will fall back into old reactive habits. You will get distracted by the trivial and neglect the essential. It is vital to understand that this is not failure. It is part of the practice. The moment you notice you have strayed from the path is not a cause for self-criticism, but a moment of profound opportunity. It is a moment of awareness, a chance to practice the most important skill of all, beginning again. Treat yourself with the same compassion you would offer a good friend who is learning a new skill. The goal is not perfection, it is progress and persistence. The true art of intentional living is not found in flawlessly executing a plan, but in the gentle, courageous act of returning. Returning to your breath, returning to your values, returning to the present moment. Each time you guide yourself back, you strengthen the muscle of intention. You prove to yourself that your commitment is stronger than your momentary distractions. This journey, while deeply personal, is not meant to be a solitary one. A life lived with intention and peace radiates outward. It changes the way you interact with your family, your colleagues, and your community. Your calm becomes a source of stability for others. Your purpose inspires those around you to seek their own. By cultivating your own garden, you create a space of beauty and nourishment that others can also enjoy. And so we leave this audiobook not with a conclusion, but with a toolkit and an invitation. The principles we have discussed are not mere words, they are seeds. It is now up to you to plant them, to nurture them, and to patiently watch them grow. The art of intentional living is not about arriving at a final destination. It is about the beauty of the journey itself. The daily, conscious, and courageous choice to live a life that is truly your own. The canvas is yours. The tools are in your hand. Your life is your masterpiece.
We have reached the end of our journey together, but in truth, it is only the beginning. We've traveled from the cluttered corners of our homes to the chaotic corridors of our minds, seeking not a life of perfection, but one of purpose. We have explored the profound power that lies in simplicity, the freedom found in discipline, and the quiet strength that comes from understanding what is truly within our control. The art of intentional living is not a rigid set of rules to be memorized, but a fluid practice to be embodied. It is the conscious choice to be the author of your own story rather than a character in someone else's. It's about trading the frantic pursuit of more for the deep satisfaction of enough. It is the daily act of aligning your actions with your deepest values, ensuring that your time, your energy, and your attention are invested in what truly matters to you. Remember the core lessons we have uncovered. Clarify your principles, simplify your environment, master your impulses, and most critically, embrace the liberating act of letting go. Letting go of past regrets, future anxieties, and the external pressures that distract you from your path. Your inner peace is not a prize to be won, but a fortress to be built, stone by intentional stone. This path will not always be easy. The noise of the world will try to pull you back into distraction. Old habits will resurface. In those moments, do not despair. Simply return to your breath. Return to your purpose. Every sunrise offers a new opportunity to choose intention over impulse, contribution over consumption, and serenity over stress. The tools are now yours. The philosophy is embedded in your heart. You are the architect of your days, the sculptor of your character. The extraordinary life you seek is not a distant destination to be discovered, but a present reality to be created, one mindful choice at a time. Go forward now and build it. The art of intentional living is your masterpiece. Begin.